wish everyone a happy new comic book day. Woo! And welcome to a very special U.S. Comics Cast, your HQ for all things comic book related. 60 minutes, 2 topics for the people. I'm John Rivera, co-founder of U.S. Comics.
That makes me Charlie Rivera, the other co-founder of U.S. Comics. And we're joined today by...
Mike Zapsik.
And Ming Chen.
Oh, snappy nappy. You do not have to adjust your dials. You heard it right. We are coming to you live to tape from the Shared Universe Studios.
And it is just too sweet to be here. And this is, I'm going to start off or restart off, or the Halle Berry boobs have returned.
Yes.
If I told you Ultimate Spider-Man, Alias, Powers, and 2001 to 2006 Daredevil, what does all that have in common?
Brian Michael Bendis.
Brian Michael Bendis.
BMB.
Right? BMB. And, I mean, those titles are so important to me. Each one of those books or each one of those runs means so much about why I like comic books, why I love comic books. It's a foundation of who I am as a person.
No pressure.
I will feel the need, though, to remind the world that this is the same creator who brought us Civil War II, which was an utter cluster. His Guardians of the Galaxy run was, I think, it was a clear statement that he did not want to be working on that book. But in 2018, I took a nice tall glass of Kool-Aid, guzzled it back, because in July they said, Bendis is coming, he's taking over Superman. I now sit here early into 2020 and I am going to say, put a fork in it, he has ruined Superman.
Wow.
One of the greatest creators of all time has ruined arguably my favorite character of all time. And again, I should have known better because his recent work hasn't been enjoyable for a billion reasons. But Superman is an interesting case, and I want to talk to you guys about it today. The first thing I just want to bring up is I'm not blind to the fact that how bad New 52 Superman was.
And Rebirth. Don't forget Rebirth.
Yeah, well, I think Rebirth fixed
Never forget Rebirth.
a lot. See, for me, when they knew that, we have to remember the worst of New 52 Superman.
Yes.
The worst of it wasn't the high collar, the cape that didn't make sense. The worst of it was, get me a Harley Davidson, I'm going to put on a T-shirt, and I'm going to wrap my knucks in my torn up baby blanket. That was the worst it could ever be.
Yeah,
Shaved head Superman is worse than Electric Superman, is worse than Superman 4 Superman.
Who was driving that one? That I had stopped.
Oh, I don't
caring.
even. Yeah, no, it was
Superman
such.
Red, Superman Blue.
Well, that's when
Redux?
he lost his powers.
That well, but which is a common theme.
Yeah.
But when he lost his powers again in New 52, I don't remember who was working on it because it just hurts my soul too much. I do remember who saved it for me, right? Because Dan Jurgens came in and crafted you remember the old universe? That Superman's back. He's been in like the equivalent of a Bottle City.
Yeah.
Him and Lois, they smashed, boom, baby. Now we have this version of Superman we never saw before.
That was from. It was a convergence.
That
crap.
was convergence leading into.
And let me tell you something. Talk about one of the biggest cluster. Holy crap.
You're not wrong.
No, because
Yeah.
they had everybody and their uncles, whatever you liked about the DC universe ever, they brought in. And
It was a buffet.
It was a fantastic concept. The worst execution I have ever seen.
Well, because it was obvious, just like New 52 and just like this Superman run that my former hero has been on, there's no plan on Jump Street. They say we'll figure it out as we go
you would
along.
assume.
It's identical to what happened with the new Star Wars trilogy. Clearly, there was no vision. There was nowhere they were going. And that ultimately takes whatever good is there, and there is good. I'm not an apologist for the new Star Wars trilogy, but I'm certainly not going to sit here and let anyone be like, it's the worst they've ever done. I've seen Clone Wars. I've seen Episode 1. Like, calm down, rewatch it. Tell me if you didn't want to take your eyes out.
Just recently, and again, sorry for the change in lanes, but
It's fine. I can bring it back.
I just recently rewatched the Clone Wars. You know, the
cartoon?
the new trilogy leading up to the
Oh,
cartoon
the
because
movie.
I wanted to build up. Actually, we had a conversation, Charlie and I, about like, well, what is now the new established timeline? Because if you're a newbie coming to the table, a normal person would begin at the beginning, regardless of when it happened to be made. So I
And
said,
you
let
shouldn't.
me, and now
You're
I
like,
know.
let's
Where
not do
were
that
you
anymore.
2 weeks ago? So I did that, and it was a painful process. Now, what I think is unique about that situation and the new Star Wars trilogy that is it's a conversation at best, is that there maybe was a singular direction when on day one, but JJ lost control of that second. It was taken
because
away
they were
from him.
too afraid to let they listened to criticism, which if you look at the Sonic movie trailer is sometimes a very good thing. When something is obviously bad, but this new
But it's
trilogy
not obviously bad because personally,
For Sonic?
for
Do you not
Sonic,
have
Come
eyeballs?
on,
What
I
are you
think
talking about?
Sonic was bad. Yeah,
the weird fur. Yeah, it's bad.
I'll give him that
but
one. I'll give him
Force
that one.
Awakens made money.
Right.
A lot of people hate everything. Nothing can come out nowadays and not get its more than fair share
Somebody's gonna say
of
something.
criticism. But they got scared because they didn't want most of the money. They wanted all the money. I feel like DC Comics was in a very, very similar situation. When New 52 initially did really well because everyone was like, new number ones. Yay, that same gimmick that we keep falling for. I have 12 long boxes of issue ones of just the characters I liked.
Quite the collection.
You can wipe your ass with them now. 'cause
Yeah,
it's,
and
yeah.
I choose to, except some of them have those holographic
poly bag
covers that
is
cost me
worth more.
$7. Tear my ring piece.
Oh, the lenticular.
Yeah, exactly.
They're textured. That'll.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll work. It just won't
Mike
feel
loves
great.
them.
Well, what
better
I
than
was telling
Charmin.
John before we started recording was, and this is the perfect case. These three movies were movies made by committee.
100%.
Absolutely.
yes.
You need one man with a vision. You
Yes.
need one architect of Star Wars, the Star Wars universe. We had it with Lucas, and then Lucas
Went crazy.
went insane.
He
'cause-
forgot he was a shit writer.
exactly.
Great concept, man.
Yeah, he's an idea man, Chuck.
He's an
But what
it's just
that
terrible
reminds me,
dialogue.
call Starkiss. So, but he went back, and his saving grace, and I'm going to be very unpopular by saying this because if George Lucas is listening to US Comics, he'll stop right here and
You'll
throw you guys out the window.
Probably be safe.
Marsha Lucas saved the Star Wars first trilogy.
Completely.
100%.
Yep.
She was the force behind the master.
It's
if I can permit a pun.
and her fingerprints are probably most on Empire.
Yes.
And
Totally, yeah.
it's the only one where there's no argument.
Well, no, it's universe. Well,
There's like 7 hipsters that are
there literally
sipping
are
their chai
7
tea.
children out there that will debate the point that Empire's like
It
the
ends
greatest
sad.
thing
Who wants that?
ever.
You
Yeah.
little
No,
shit.
nothing in life ever happens that way. Don't worry.
No, sorry, kids. Yeah, everyone dies and we're all happy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's fine. It's great.
So what?
Then
Han's a
Teddy Bear
popsicle.
showed up, and we still cheered because we
Well,
told them
yeah, because I was told by you. This is where the age difference is a problem. You're like, this is good. I swear. I'm like, must be good. I'm a dumb child. But the one side effect of a singular vision is when should you pull the plug? Because again, think whatever you want about where he picked up the Superman comics, and at this point, he's had 40. I think over 40 issues because he oversees
Bendis did.
he oversees Action and Superman proper. The thing that was at least interesting for some Superman fans was this new family dynamic.
Yes.
It was the biggest change
Interesting
to
to some.
Superman. Some hate it.
I hate it.
Notoriously, but nonetheless interesting. And we were talking before we started recording. Timelines are important. What happened yesterday should inform today. And what he did systematically over 40 issues was he completely ruined that family dynamic. And I would argue it's impossible to argue against me. He's transformed Lois.
That sounds like a challenge.
It is a challenge. He's transformed Lois into a completely self-centered, selfish, story-hungry, just total bitch.
And she pretty much told Superman that they've got an open marriage now.
She's been cucking Clark for 40 issues.
Yeah.
She
Lois, you've had a freebie. You've been banging 2 different guys,
Yeah.
unbeknownst to you for so
Seriously,
long.
You've had a threesome for God's
How
sake.
greedy are you, lady?
But I know you just said that as a joke because I know you're not currently like reading actively the Superman comics. She went away with John to space with Jor-El, who's back.
Sure,
They're
no,
just trusting
that
that
makes
he's
a lot of
good
sense.
now again. But they go away to space. Lois secretly comes back to Earth. Doesn't tell Clark. Everyone in the Daily Planet's like, hey, Clark, how was it getting divorced? Clearly she left you and took the kid. And he's like, no, I don't want to talk about it. She is wearing a wig. Cat Grant finds her. Clark is like, all right, I'll go find this.
I'm an
Shows up.
investigative
She
reporter,
just
too.
makes out with Superman in front of like a 7-Eleven with 35 people there snapping photos. So now the whole world is like, yep, Lois Lane is super doing it with Superman.
Right.
Then in bed, that goddamn night is like, rules don't apply. You're Superman.
So
Are you fucking kidding?
Again,
Lois's
with the
purple-eyed
Superman
glory
titles,
would never do that.
I play a lot of catch up because I also love the character, and obviously the build up was, at least the last time I was really paying attention to the outing, so to speak, of Superman.
Oh, you mean the
like-
second version of Truth in 4 years? That's also called Superman Truth?
Clearly, that's what I
Unoriginal
mean.
asshole.
That's what I mean.
No,
But I'm
I
saying,
mean,
was
let's-
this just an excuse, like a means to an end?
Well, no. What they've tried to do is he's tried to paint a picture of Superman being like, this is me lying.
Wow.
Not. You know what? Fuck Perry. Fuck Lois. They're not bulletproof. And he's like, I'm still gonna work the planet though.
Yeah, and fuck Jimmy too. I mean,
Fuck yeah, little stupid.
Everyone who's in the line of fire.
Yeah,
Fuck you.
suddenly, how very Superman of him. And the one thing I will say is he's not always guilty of writing Superman poorly, but in what could you imagine Christopher Reeves in a Superman movie, which we had 2 bad ones of? Could you imagine being
whoa,
like,
whoa.
I'm gonna go ahead and out myself and just let's roll the dice
Yeah, let's see
on
what
everyone
happens on
living?
this one. And you know what? And I'm gonna go back and say that this isn't the only time that they've recycled a script. Because if you'll remember, they adopted in Jeff Johns' run.
100%.
They had Lord Zod. It was Zod's
Yes,
kid, and they
yes.
adopted him, and he was great. But then he had to go back to the to Rockall, the the Phantom Zone prison,
they kind of did something similar because
and then they aged his kid. Right? I just blew your mind, didn't I?
Well, not only did they age his kid, so I know you don't like the kid. What if I told you that I'm going to get rid of him?
Are you saying they pulled the
He's-
Rocky, and
he's
when he
gonna-
came back from
yes.
Russia, all of a sudden he was a threat to the universe?
100%
Okay, cool,
exactly
cool,
what they
cool,
did.
cool.
But in the meanwhile, the 3 weeks before he aged 1 billion years and got a terrible new costume, and it is terrible. Stop adding black to the Superman family. He gets tortured by Bizarro Lois and Clark on Earth 3. The not Injustice Society.
the crime
The crime syndicate.
yeah.
The crime. The Ultraman throws him in the bottom of a volcano and just abuses him,
Listen,
and then
sometimes things
complains
happen
about his
to
family.
big
Dude,
games.
no one deserves that treatment, let alone poor little Jonathan Kent, named after his grandfather. Comes back, now he's older, just to ship him off to the Legion of Superheroes, which, by the way, because I make the mistake of reading these books, this version of Superman never went with them.
That's true. And
They're strange. He sent his kid with crazy grandpa, who has half his face goddamn melted.
Well, he's-
and they're
Yeah,
just,
he's Mel Gibson and man with half a face. Number one. You're gonna send it with racist grandpa. with
and
half
Lois
a
is like,
face.
by the way, throwing back to my Lois shade, she went, there's going to be a good story in it. Dope, honey.
Yeah, no,
Thanks.
all right, your Pulitzer versus your kid. Way to choose.
The comic would have
The
been so
shelf
much
will be
better
nice
if
and empty
Superman, this is Sparta'd her into the ship with Jor-El, snatched the kid by the hand and be like, why are you suddenly being written like a total asshole? You were beloved. Little Jonathan was the personification of the good qualities of Clark Kent with superpowers. He was very well written. The only reason stupid Damian Wayne was tolerable is when Jonathan Kent was around.
Yeah.
Let's just age him up. We're going to send him to Space War because he invented Space UN. That's the other thing Jonathan Kent did.
The 300
Dope.
reference is probably apt because, like, how old are you now? Get the fuck out. You gotta go.
Oh.
You gotta go.
Also,
But
if you had to guess, you love Superman, yeah?
7.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
How do you think Superman would react to his son coming back, suddenly a teenager? He leaves an 11-year-old boy. Now he's a teenager. What do you think Superman's reaction is?
I mean, probably like mine. You know, I would be quite surprised.
Quite surprised. Does it feel like a Superman move to be like, okay, shut up, stop telling me your story, son, who's now older. I'm going to fly into space because I'm angry.
Sure.
And I'm just going to like beat up Mongol. How the hell do you say that word? I like had a
Mongol.
stutter.
Yeah, that was good.
He like defeats him because he's so pissed off. Be like, that's who Superman is, right? The angry, just give him horns. Just give him little evil bat horns
Yeah, that's
and
not
call it a
good.
day. I'm sick of people hating Superman for being Superman, so they try to edge him up. That's
Well,
not
yeah,
the character.
And you know, Mike and I were discussing earlier before we started recording how important the core of a character is. That's one of those things where okay, this is my car. I bought it. I thought of buying it. I did my research. It's my car. But you know what though? Here are the keys. You can now drive my car. That's awesome. That's awesome. But analogy. But you still have to follow the rules of the road and the character's core definitions of what makes up that character, who makes them kind of what they are. You still have to. You're obligated to a certain degree. Just because you got permission to drive my car, that doesn't mean you get to turn him into a fucking bad guy, or you know he's a swinger now, or whatever the hell you want to do.
Yeah,
do
you
to
can't
him.
use your car for a drive-by shooting or
Yes.
for
Yeah.
But you
a
told
getaway
me I
car.
could drive it.
Yeah.
I didn't say you could ruin my fucking life.
Right. Don't change out the dubs. Don't throw a spoiler,
Yeah,
like a weird
yeah.
spoiler on there. Don't mess up the car.
Yeah,
but
seriously,
also,
Don't mess up the car.
You know
Drive
what?
the car.
Don't even change the radio station. How about that?
Yeah.
Let's lay down
You,
ground
want
rules.
to take the car on a road trip? That's great, but
Fine.
don't mess up the car.
Give it back fueled up and
Yeah.
clean.
Yeah.
Don't smoke it. I'm not asking for a lot.
Ming, have you been reading either Superman or Action lately in this 40
I have
issue
not
run?
read it lately.
Okay, so this is because obviously you
And-
have.
and now
this is just for you and
maybe not.
this is just for you and John. How many issues do you think I just explained? All these huge changes.
I mean, I have no idea.
He's done 40, so just educated guess.
I mean, what, 10, 15?
I'm gonna go 16. Price is Right rules.
Fucking 6.
6?
It was his first 6-issue
It was
miniseries.
like 6, and that he ran
So-
Johnson the whole
Yeah,
franchise.
exactly right. It was the opening scroll.
That should
of
now
the
be the
scroll rather,
official.
of the
I
new.
done wrong.
Yes,
Right.
I cannot believe because if you
Wow.
want to change a character, if you want to write a compelling story, explaining to me why Superman is going to be different than his classic interpretation, do it. Tell that story. Maybe it'll be compelling. You can't just change a character like I've never read a Superman comic before, because I don't think he did.
Well,
Because Bendis never worked on a DC character before. This was his first, and he got the DC character in most people's
Right,
opinion.
right. Crown
Some
jewel.
people might argue, Batman, or some would even, but the Trinity, He clearly does. He can't like Superman for who Superman is.
Well-
He took away half of it.
Yeah.
Clark is a vital part of
it
Superman.
could be a look what I did situation, which is
Absolutely.
inherently, talent aside, is a dick move. Like and this goes to
And
from
not
me
a
thinking-
Grayson. Not Dick
No,
Grayson.
no,
though.
like the
A Dick Grayson move is when
Potentially. I could see
you
him
get
do
it
that.
at that right angle.
yeah.
Or you get a threesome with Batgirl and Starfire.
Right.
Or
But it's
just
like-
multiple Batgirls.
Yeah,
I also
there you
feel like that
Science
is
fiction movies have taught us nothing if not just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. Like
Right.
give it a minute. And there's and I hate to even use the words together, but as an often Superman apologizer, defender, a lot of times people come with, well, regardless of even like Elseworlds type stories, he always ends up being Superman again. Yeah, and like you're saying it like that. This is a bad thing. He's a great fucking character. So regardless of what shit you're able to throw at him, ultimately he ends up being his true self again. How is that bad story writing? If anything, it's good. In my
lets-
way of thinking.
It lets the character shine through. John
yeah.
Byrne, when he did Man of Steel, a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is gonna suck," and a lot of people like me were like, "This is gonna be great." And they powered him down a little bit. And John Byrne did take a couple of liberties where he's like, go find somebody else. You know, Phantom Stranger comes, Clark Kent, we need you to help. And he's like, I've done my supernatural stuff for the month. Thank you very much. And he's like, I'm not giving you a choice. And boom. But essentially, he's still Superman. Essentially, he's still that, you know, the Midwestern boy who has to help that person in need.
Which is vital. It's everything that character is.
But that's what makes Superman Superman. It's this, like, and you can talk poorly about like a defined set of black and white virtues for sure. But, you know, when your ass is on fire and Lex Luthor has raised your rent again, you know, that's not really gonna be part of the conversation. You want someone who is definitively, you know, is going to help you and put your, you know, best interest before anything else. And you know, for me, you know, also when the conversation will come up like, well, why Superman when there are, you know, this you know, there's no shortage of superheroes that you can throw your support behind. Here is a circumstance where you literally have a character that can, for all intents and purposes, do anything. If he wants to be the heavyweight champion of the world, he's gonna be. You know,
tried that once.
That's true. That's true.
Of the universe, and everything.
That was
universe.
That was cheating. That was cheating, man. There was kryptonite involved.
So, but ultimately he decides, you know what? I'm going to put all that aside. Even the way he lives, he's a working man. You know what I mean? Like, he ultimately is going to decide, having the ability to do anything. What I'll do is help others, and that's what I've always found most amazing and inspiring about the character. That's the hope, so to speak, that they talk about the character.
There's, I think it was Prince Philip who said during the war, to be of service to others is the highest of distinctions.
100%.
And that is the personification of Superman. To be of service to others, because, I mean, you know, Superman needs a nap. Nope, there's a fire in Tunisia. You know,
pull up those red underwears. You got to get going.
Exactly, and you need the underwear on the outside. You need that
always.
Why? Because
for
no other reason. Do you know?
Because shut up. That's why he needs
exactly. You go, you buy a shrimp cocktail. You know, they leave that piece on the end of the tail. That serves no function.
It's not a handle.
No, it's not a handle.
You can't eat it. You can't. It doesn't digest.
And I worked in the food service industry, and I've asked literal chefs, master chefs, why do they leave the little thing? He's like, I don't know, they've always just done it. Just done it.
I love the idea of the third time you asked, like, because it fucking is. That's what we do.
Have you been here before?
Because you're fired. That's why. Because get the fuck out. Pack up your shit and get out.
I like that the first half of that you were in character. Like clearly that was a real chef. You were like, oh, get out. I'm like, oh, maybe I don't like this.
Yeah, that's a little close to home. But it's so true. It's like they've always done it, and it works.
And then I always get so frustrated when they take these legacy characters and feel the need, and they think that the only way to nuance them or to do something new is
give them a black uniform
and a huge personality change. What I would love to see, because they've tried it in the past to varying degrees of success, how difficult it must be to be Superman Clark Kent while simultaneously a husband. Now add it, you have an 11-year-old kid who also adventures that you have to worry about. Like, he can't just go to goddamn space. Like, you need to help him. So what's that balancing act actually look like?
Yeah, what the? I mean, he's going out into space. It's not like he's borrowing the family car to go to the 7-Eleven. He's not going around the corner. No, he's going to space. And guess what? You know what happens when Superman goes under a red sun? His kid don't know what's, he's flying into a red sun, red solar system. And he's like, oh, shit. He's like, I can't breathe now. And you're like, ah, crap. Yeah, now I got to go save him.
Oops. There was you could have done, if they wanted to spice things up, take a breather on Superman comic. Make it Superman and Son, and it's them going through the galaxies. If you really wanted them to be involved with
please, if anyone's listening, don't make it Superman and Son, please.
If you wanted Legion.
Look, dummy, I want you to fly over to Daxon and pick up some garbage.
Well, I mean, you're probably most familiar with it, but when they did, I think it was a 3-issue, like a 3 issues. It was in Action, I think, but it was just them going on like a family trip. and it was the most interesting.
I'm sure nothing bad happened.
It was
It's
the
fine.
most. Well, the cool thing is like nothing huge bad happened. It was like tiny little stumble upon things while they're trying to like look at Colorado.
Yeah.
It was so goddamn interesting. I was like, that they made a Mary Jane comic in Marvel that they think is going to be an ongoing, but you know it's not going to be a fucking ongoing. But you couldn't give me like the Kent Family Vacation, do a yearbook style. It's 2008 Family Vacation, 2009.
I would
Family
sign
Vacation.
It's called an annual. How about that? Fuck
Yeah.
there you
Why
go.
do we forget how those work, by the way?
I know. Oh my god. Yeah, because you needed 13 fucking books in a year.
Yeah, that's
why. Because that whole story arc couldn't work. You know what? You needed Jeff Johns, and I don't know if you guys read the Doomsday Clock.
Fuck yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Did you
We
love
talked
the
about it,
ending?
actually.
You know what's so funny is I think I set myself up perfectly because when we finally got the last issue, 2 years later, I read it all as a complete.
Yeah.
The same way I watched the Watchmen.
Like you
I
binged it.
loved. I happened to love the ending.
So did I.
Yeah.
Yeah,
me too.
it was,
And
I
it
just
m-
thought it was a master move to fix any problems I had. They fixed.
Yeah.
In like the 0 hour.
And since you're both such big Superman fans, did you ever read Alan Moore's Supreme run?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
There you are.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that pisses me off is that trade paperbacks go out of print and no one can get them.
It makes no sense in 2020.
I know.
Like
It's
we
just-
live in a digital landscape. Let
of
me hit
course.
print.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no excuse.
There is no excuse.
No
I mean,
excuse.
in the era of print on demand, I mean, I got a movie burned to DVD for me, Blu-ray, whatever.
Sure, don't lie. It was
By-
DVD. You're poor.
by request by Amazon. Like they made this a thing for me.
Right.
So like technology has caught up to. In essence, if you want it, you can have it.
I want an absolute Supreme by Alan Moore. But the Alan Moore, and they fixed every bit of continuity and
It was
forever.
It was absolutely awesome, and the best part was
I'll
nothing
go-
was just different for the sake.
Right. And I'll go you one better. It wasn't just awesome, it was elegant. That's a word that just never gets used. It was
true.
elegant, and he put such like a twist on it that you're like, bam.
It was elegant and satisfying.
Yes.
Yeah.
It managed to both be like it left you feeling warm, like after a delicious hot meal. It was absolutely incredible.
Well, you know what, and Charlie and I, we've spoken about this a few times. It's kind of reared its ugly head. But the reviewers of the world, both professional and amateur, I would argue they're all kind of amateur for the way they approach certain things. But we were talking about a reviewer who reviewed content never seen. And how that was like okay, and that,
the Witcher review. There was
for a lot of people,
Entertainment Weekly?
That's like an automatic, yeah. So he reviewed The Witcher, having never seen it, and kind of like handed it off. Well, but my buddy said
he did half
that,
an
that was
episode.
him
made
doing
his friend watch the
doing
rest.
his job.
Only watched like 2 episodes.
and
I was like,
as-
sucks F.
as offensive as that is, I would say it's equally offensive to have someone come in, and I've seen reviews like this, and I'm going to apply it to writers of the content as well.
You got a minute.
Done. They come in and they say, well, not liking sci-fi films, the new Star Wars was blank, blank, blank. I don't care. If you don't like the genre that you're watching,
You're not
this is a part of,
qualified.
you're not qualified.
Yeah, I'm not listening to you.
And honestly, I don't want writers. I don't care about your bills. I don't care about your responsibilities at home. If you don't love Superman, don't write him. Sincerely, take your talents.
Please
take
don't
it to
write
South
him.
Beach. Go do something else, and save me because I'm spending the money and the time to ingest what you spit out.
Exactly. I loved Bendis's run on Iron Man. That was great.
So good.
Stay on Iron Man. Stay on Doom.
You clearly love it.
You gave Iron Man and you gave Doom a new lease on life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
and that's- I
You
was
took
trying-
them off the recycle heap.
Exactly.
And again, I know there's money things that come in, but ultimately, at some point, you have to be proud of what you're doing.
Right.
And I don't know how he could possibly be like, no, all my decisions. It doesn't matter that I haven't closed any of these 100 loose ends. We're just gonna move on because that's his new shtick lately. Is he's like, yeah, no, Rag al Zar, yeah, whatever. Maybe he blew up Krypton. Also, that now allegedly a big monster destroyed Krypton. But that's
yeah, sure, that's fair.
our time. Last thoughts on Superman and this run that has hurt my heart.
I wish that Jeff Johns had stayed on Superman. I wish that he was the architect of
I wish they just gave him
DC.
control.
instead of Dan Didio, because
Mm-hmm.
Dan Didio is like, hey, he's like free for all. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
and you know, I've met him a couple times. Nice guy, but you know what? You need somebody with that Jim Shooter kind of. You know, this is the way it goes, and you want continuity.
This is the
Continuity.
way.
Yeah.
This is the way.
He's
I have spoken.
He's a great example though, because the bottom line is not everyone loved this Star Wars movie. Who doesn't love The Mandalorian, or at least like it?
That's a good pull.
It's-
I've heard no
dissenting
met
opinion.
no one
Nobody.
who is not like
So if
John Favreau
so if
was
you're-
the architect.
And if you're
And it's
looking
his
for
universal
someone,
vision.
if you're looking for someone now to lead Star Wars into the next set, why not at least have a conversation with him? Someone who clearly loves the universe.
His clearly established relationship now with Disney makes nothing Disney owned out of the realm of possibility.
John Favreau for
I
Gargoyles movie. A new
Sure.
Gargoyles movie. I just
Absolutely.
learned.
That's very
Ming,
very-
last-
Bernie Casey's still alive, right?
Yeah.
All right, beautiful.
John, last thoughts on Superman, if any? And this run?
let Mike Zapsik write it.
Yeah. Oh shit, I'm in.
Let me be the architect.
I'm
I don't want to write
definitely
it.
behind
Yeah.
that.
I just want to
Yeah.
be the architect. Let me be the architect. And
No,
DC
right,
Comics.
let him
Can I
be
just
the
call you on
Cyclops
Sundays to be like,
of
what are you
the-
thinking?
Yeah, sure.
Just so if you hear me like grumble to myself, you're
Or
like, "Do you
Marvel.
not like-"
Same thing.
Anything.
One
Marvel's
vision,
a better
one
even
guy.
example.
A vision.
A singular, exactly. And you know what? And this is going to segue quite nicely as
Ooh,
I
segue machine.
take over control of the
Oh.
ship, U.S. Comics Cast.
Follow us
So
on social media. That's US Comics HQ.
nice. See, we're already applying what we've learned. Beautifully done.
U.S. Comics HQ.
So
The
speaking
Q
about-
stands for quality.